part two of the Gamma Mastery Workshop. We're leveraging Gamma for content creation and asset development. When it comes to AI, there's a lot of ways to brainstorm and ideate and get words out there, but how do you turn those words into visual representations that will relay that message to our target audience in a more efficient and effective way? That is where Gamma comes in part one of this workshop series. We covered the foundation. If you haven't seen part one, watch part one to understand what the foundation is with Gamma and setting up your brand style guide, because we're going to be digging right into it here in today's workshop. How to take your branded style guide inside of Gamma and start to create content from it, from your existing assets, and even how to leverage AI with Gamma so that you can get your ideas out there and communicated more effectively with the world. You can grab your computer, you can follow along. I'm going to be speaking through the examples here in a way that will also be taking all of the walkthroughs, the instructions from today, and then we'll be adding those into our classroom inside the community on School so that you can watch through any of the sections that you need. If you're on YouTube, you can obviously watch through and rewatch things as much as you'd like, but I would highly recommend joining our community on School if you want additional resources, SOPs, instructionals, things like that. Who here has been building presentations actively with Gamma? I'm curious where you guys are at right now with it.
From my side, it's been very basic. So I've just been using it for presentations, to create presentations, and that's it.
Great. Hopefully today we'll show you a little bit more ways that you can experiment with it.
That's what I was looking for.
Cool. Yolanda.
Yeah, first of all, I'm new to using Gamma, and although I've sat through some of your trainings in regards to Gamma for the last couple of years, I just never really learned how to use it. But after sitting through the first session, I am highly interested in learning how to use it for social media reels, specifically for LinkedIn. And then also you had mentioned with some of the other ways that we can use Gamma, because I know that like with a lot of small to medium-sized businesses, a lot of them need SOPs and basically leaning on you just to expand my thinking in regards to how can we use Gamma to create those SOPs for companies.
Right. We'll definitely be getting into SOPs, even just taking a simple Google document that you've already made and making it something that can be more on brand, easier to consume, and more a visual story that's telling what this SOP can do and how to improve that SOP from just being a basic old Google Doc, which is nothing wrong with Google Documents, but there's plenty of ways that you can leverage Gamma in this process too. So
especially to make it more digestible, because I've created some SOPs and it could be like 20 to 30 page Google Docs of just nothing but information, something that's more visually appealing and more digestible for people to read as well as to search through if they need to search through as well too.
Love it. Awesome. I have a couple examples that I want to start with and a quick walkthrough for what we're going to be covering at a high level. And then I want to show some practical examples of how to take our existing assets that we've already created, leverage that brand's style guide and template, and then how we can go from there. If you do have questions, please drop them in the comments and we'll do our best to get to those in a timely manner. But for right now, part two of this workshop series, we're going to be getting into more content transformation and then some template building so that we can create templates inside of Gamma based on stuff that we're doing on a repeatable, regular basis. This is all going to build on part one, from the brand foundation to taking that style guide, like I've mentioned before, turning it into usable assets. So a few examples that we'll walk through. We may or may not touch on each one of these examples exactly, but whatever I'm about to be sharing with you over the course of the next 45 to 50 minutes or so, I would encourage you to be thinking critically as we're going through this process about your specific business and what you do on a day-to-day basis, whether it's building client SOPs or creating course material, creating checklists, creating whatever sort of resources that you're already investing your own time into. What are the things that you are spending time creating that if you spent less time but had the same or better quality output, where could Gamma help support you in that aspect? For the first part, I'm going to jump into some transformational workflows. One that I will be sharing is taking some sort of a training document and then turning it into a visual SOP. And Yolanda, like you mentioned, making it more digestible. So we'll get started with a baseline. How do you take a training document of any sort, transform that into a visual SOP? And then what are some of the cool things you can do inside of the Gamma to helping it become more digestible and consumable by the end user? I'd also like to making a note right now to get into some of the social content, especially for LinkedIn, because we did talk about that. And at the end of the day, there's a good chance if you're running any sort of business out there right now that you've already got a ton of assets that you can take and transform and make better with Gamma with what you've already got. So you may not need to create anything new from scratch, but it's more a matter of repurposing what you've already built. And so after walking through a few of these workflows, I want to jump in with whatever time we do have left then on how to start creating a template inside of Gamma that you can use. We use a sales deck as an example, but there's a lot of applications for this beyond just sales decks. Basically saying, okay, we want to create this same exact sort of templatized version of this output every time, but we want to change like one or two slides to be custom for the client that we're presenting this to. So I'm going to walk through that process and then we'll get into a few other things. At the end of the day, the homework and the outcome that you're going to be building towards is taking at least one piece of existing content that you have, transform that into Gamma, whether it's creating a template for an SOP process or a sales deck, or it's just transforming an existing training manual into an SOP. We're going to want to have our brand style guide set up, and you're going to want to identify that one core piece of content. And then maybe even one thing that you regularly pitch, such as your product, your service, a workshop. And we'll walk through that process of transforming that into either a sales deck or a straight up presentation. And the first example I'm going to show, just because it's a very simple example, and I hope that you will find the applications to this for whatever SOPs you're making. I'm going to be using in a lot of these examples the side hustle game because we're always creating new assets for that as we're playing new games and pitching new workshops and that sort of stuff. So once we're in Gamma, this should look familiar. Obviously, your workspace is going to look different. When you jump in, you'll see a bunch of the different Gammas that you are creating. If you're working like you're an agency or you're a consultant or a coach and have multiple clients, you're going to want to have multiple folders where you can organize this content material. So I'm going to scroll down and select my side hustle folder right here. You can see I have a ton of different presentations here specifically for this example. And here's the idea that I'm going to have. I'm going to put a little context into it about how I would quite literally approach this process. If I said, oh, I need to like send somebody a branded deck of the instructions for how to play our game, but I want to make it so that it's not just a boring, basic Google document. I want to make it more interactive so that people can actually see and understand how to use and play the game. Okay. So what we're going to be starting with in terms of an existing asset that I already have, this is just a basic PDF that I have. It goes over the entire game instructions. This is literally the operating procedure for how to play this game. Take whatever standard operating procedure you have and consider it. So this is about 4 pages inside of a Google Drive folder. So the idea is, how do I take this document and make it look a lot cooler, a lot more on brand, and more interactive? Okay. Without spending a ton of time in PowerPoint or Google Slides or whatever and doing it much faster. So first thing I'm going to do is go into my brand folder, whatever brand you're working with. I'm going to open up my side hustle folder in this case. I'm going to select create new. So I'm going to create new. And now I could paste in text because I could literally just copy and paste all of this context right here. But I could also import file or a URL. What I'm going to do for this case is I'm going to upload this file. So I'm just going to download it right now onto my computer. I'm going to upload the file. It's going to take a minute to load. And again, there's multiple ways that you can go about this. We could literally go and copy and paste the entire document, add it into the copy and paste, or you could import it directly with AI, as you can see happening right here. And now I have a few different options. I have presentation, I have web page, I have document, or I have social. Now, because it is like an SOP type of thing, I'm going to go ahead and just select document. I'm going to continue to the next. And now you can see it literally imported my entire SOP into it right here. Verbatim, all the content that I had in that document is right here now. So the next thing I want to do, if you remember what we did last week, we had the few options: preserve, condense, and generate. I don't want to generate because sometimes AI can take something and say, okay, that's cool. I want it to be extensive or minimal, but then it's going to lose a lot of context. And I already spent a lot of time putting this document together so that people had a super crystal clear way to like actually play this game. So I'm going to keep it preserved. I'm going to keep the language output on English. But then for my theme, last week we were starting to build our themes. But now I'm going to go back because I actually created a better theme, a better one than we had last time because I spent about 15 more minutes after our last call, I optimized the theme and it's more on brand with how I want it to look. So now I'm going to go ahead and select the theme that I want to be creating. And we have the option for image sourcing. I don't really want to include a bunch of images into here right now. I can always add images back in, but I'm going to personally select don't add images. And we can see card by card or free form. Now, nothing that I deliver, like generate here is irreversible. I can always come back and restructure my prompts and how I want to generate this document. I'm just going to go card by card. I'm going to click generate. Or actually, next thing I'm going to do before that, I'm going to say you in the additional instructions, just for some more context to AI, are creating an SOP for how to play this game. We will embed a video from our YouTube to the top slide as well. So I'll see if it takes that literally and starts to adjust anything from it. But you can get creative with these instructions and experiment with how it influences the outputs on your end. We'll see if it actually is going to add anything up here. Doesn't look like it did, which is totally cool. But now we can see it's taking that entire document and creating a themed version of it with exactly what we gave it in uploading this document. So you can see it's following it verbatim, it's preserving all the context. And the last thing you want to do is give someone an SOP and then you're like, wait, it totally skipped over a section because you had it generated and it just mixed some of that context. And so you can see generating all the individual sections for it, gameplay examples. So while it's doing that, I already know the video that I'm going to add onto it. And this is in an effort to make it more consumable and engaging with people that are actually going to be going through this SOP. So I'm just going on to the Side Hustle YouTube channel, and I'm just using YouTube because that is where our content is hosted. You can also embed Loom videos. You can also embed some other forms, and I'll walk you through where you can look at some of the different options for embedding. But while it's generating, do you guys see like where this could maybe fit into your own SOP creation, where you take an existing document, an existing instruction manual, just say yes in the comments, or let me know, is this landing with like where this like fits into it? I think it's a relatively simple example, but also just because it's simple doesn't mean it can't be powerful and useful. I saw a few nods over here, Natasha. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Yolanda, you guys seeing where this could fit into your own processes and generating visual SOPs with Gamma? Awesome. And that's a wrap. I don't know how much time that would have taken me in PowerPoint because I opt out of PowerPoint at this stage in the game because I have Gamma. But now you're looking through it, and obviously this is a point in time where the emphasis is on the human in the loop. Because if you just take this and you're like, okay, thanks, Gamma, that's great. I'm gonna send this off to a client, and then I just lost a $10,000 deal because Gamma just went off the rails because I didn't review it. That's not Gamma's fault. That's my fault because I didn't review the process at all. And that's just one example of a number of ways that you want to make sure that whoever is operating Gamma at the end of the day is like going through and making sure this is something that you would actually want to present. And so what I'm going to do now is just show, now that we've got this example, I mean, like this just makes it look more visually appealing at the end of the day. I can present this. So if you go to presenting, you can see, oh, let me see this here. Oops, I'm going to scroll up so that I can start from the top. So I'm at the very top. You can see I can present it. Okay, that's great. Like it looks like Gamma made the back of this a little bit gray. And so I'm like, huh, that isn't really what I wanted to, but this is probably where it took the instruction from what I gave it and was like, oh, yeah, I just added that video here. So there's a few ways that I can go and address this to start making it, again, more interactive. One is the card styling. And so I'll say, is there a background image? Maybe there isn't. Do I want to generate one with AI? Not really in this case. Header, footer, backdrop, default. I can edit it with AI. And this is a key point that as we're going through this workshop series and you're getting your hands dirty with Gamma, a recent update to the Gamma interface, which I think is really powerful and often overlooked because it's so new right now, is their agent. And so what agent allows you to do is conversationally work with Gamma to get the stuff out of it that you want to do. And what agent knows is everything that Gamma can do. You just need to conversationally instruct it what you want it to do. And before I dive into agent, which you'll notice at the very top, the top right part of the screen, you can also get to edit with AI on any individual slide and say how you want to edit this card. On the right-hand side, you see these different things that I can expand on: the basic blocks, title, tables, success inbox, code blocks, images, so I can upload a thing for images or QR codes. So if I wanted the QR code here to say insert QR code, personally, I think this is a really cool feature because if you're doing a presentation and you're like presenting from stage and you want people to be able to scan your thing to do it, that's how I used this one time last year. I was doing a presentation and we needed people to like download and run through an app from the stage. And I added this in 10 minutes before we went on stage or something like that. And it was great because people had the QR code they could scan. So again, just one example, you can drag and drop. If I see a question, if I have a QR code, can I just import? Also, does AI use memories like ChatGPT? I'm not sure exactly to the extent that Gamma's memory will be related, like right now, like without assuming how much it can understand. But you can bring QR codes in, and it would just be like a regular QR code that you would scan. So you could create it on what Canva or whatever other QR generator you might use. But that is like something that you can tap into from the the images section. You also have these smart layouts, which again, you could go a lot more deep into any number of these. Smart diagrams, a lot of ways to visualize your content. And so this is as you're creating SOPs and you're walking through this, like getting an understanding of what are all of these different smart diagrams that Gamma has possible here. And it could be something that, depending on the level of imagery that Gamma is providing, could automatically do it, or you could add those in and use agent to do that. So another thing you can do here if you wanted to is embed different apps, different things of that nature into Gamma. But what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna open up the agent and I'm gonna ask the agent, hey, on the very first slide, can you make the background the same color black as normal? And also, I want you to add this YouTube embedded link so that people can watch the video as well onto the right side of the card. And you can see there, I'm pasting the YouTube video that I wanted to embed. And now, but I'm not able to embed YouTube videos directly into Gamma cards. Pretty sure that's a lie. So sometimes, just like AI can come back to you and say, hey, I can do this, but I can't do that. It might just need a little bit of extra nudging in that direction. So first, what we can see did happen is it changed the background of the card. So everyone, like while I was talking, that just happened and I noticed, huh, interesting. It changed the background of the card. But now, yeah, we'll use this card. Okay, great. So I'm going to go back here now. And this is a point where I'm going to do slash. And before I do this, I focus in real quick where in the middle of the screen, type slash to add blocks or add image, add table, add more blocks. So I'm going to get slash. And if I say slash YouTube, voila, YouTube videos pops up. Gamma could do it. Its agent just, it no comprehende right there. And it didn't understand what was doing it. So it helps to know what the platform can do, obviously, to be able to know if it's actually just being AI and being silly. But 2 seconds later, because I knew that it could do that, now I have, instead of just a Google Doc where this is my page, now I have this presentation that all of a sudden I can copy, I can publish it to a site, I can share it, I can embed it, I can yada yada. If I wanted to just share this presentation link directly, I could quite literally just copy it and I could share it with anybody here, just like I just did right now. You can go directly to this presentation document by going to that link. And if anyone does click through it here, the one I just shared in the link, you'll go to this type of page. I don't know why the error is the image uploading. Again, before I sent this to a client, before I push this out to the real world, I would want to go through this process and make sure it's actually doing the stuff that it said it would be doing. So let me see here. Maybe the old QR code game screwed things up a little bit there. So I'm just going to go /QR. Again, if you know something is available in Gamma, you can just go back to it and then boom. Okay. Boom. So now I have my presentation, side hustle game instructions. This is suddenly much more interactive and walking people through the entire instruction process in the manual for like training somebody how to play this game. I could send this to instructors, facilitators, teachers in classrooms that play this game with their students. Like this is going to be a up-leveled way of teaching somebody how to play this game. I hope that you can see how this could apply to how you are creating instructional content and materials for taking just a basic training document and creating a visual SOP. So that was a quick jump right into a demonstration. Are you guys seeing where Gamma can help support you? I know we already covered that a little bit, but hopefully you find some inspiration and some ideation for where this will fit into your own workflows. The next thing I want to do is talk about creating social content. And the example that Yolanda, you were mentioning was like LinkedIn. And so let's go ahead and see. Okay, we just did this thing with a training document, but now what if I wanted to make a comprehensive post on LinkedIn for how this game works and how we can create social media content that walks people through the entire process of playing the game? Okay, we're going to do the same example. I'm going to open up my side hustle folder inside of Gamma. I'm going to select create new, and I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to import the file because I've already got the file. I'm going to upload a file that I've already created. Again, if you have a Google document, you can import from web pages, you do anything of that sort. But one thing I really like about using Gamma, specifically in my workflow, is already spending the time to create and structure the content before I bring it in to get it created. There are times where I just start directly in Gamma and have it create something from scratch, but if you follow how we teach content creation and having that context properly structured and set up, like coming into Gamma, it's going to reduce the amount of time and amount of revisions, in my opinion, that it might take if you're just starting from scratch every time. And in this case, I'm going to take those same rules and instructions. I'm going to select social here on the right below the uploaded PDF file. I'm going to select social. It's going to configure my prompts. And now we have an option to preserve it. We also have the option to condense it, and we have the option for it to generate it. So just for funsies, I'm going to, let's do this. Card freeform. I'm going to say yes, split it for me. So now Gamma is going through the headlines and it's going to split this up into a number of cards. Actually don't want it to go to that many cards. Most socials are like limiting stuff to 10 cards or so. I think Instagram maybe at 20. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. But example, you upload content in. This time I'm going to click, let's just say generate. Casually writing for party gamers and friends looking for a social experience. Instead of that, what I'm going to say is like how Side Hustle is becoming a hit for companies hosting experiential team building activities. Same game, completely different target market, right? But we are having conversations with companies about using this game in the form of workshops, like disguised as a fun comedy game, but that actually sparks creative ideas, innovation inside of companies. So we're writing it for a different person. This is where you influence who you're writing it to. You can keep the tone the same. I'm selecting the same theme. And then we could also like select images if we wanted to. I'm going to keep it, let's do images, right? Let's do images. Let's do animated GIF. No, we're not going to do that. AI generated images. We'll see. Okay, so once you select AI generated images, super fun and innovative doodle art, black stick figures and white background with gradient colors so it blends in on every image with the black background. Okay, you can configure your own custom style prompt, something I would encourage you to spend some extra time on. And it asks you extra images, neon, glow, vibrant, dynamic, aqua. You can do all kinds of stuff here. And regarding the question just came through about what LLMs is Gamma using, I'm not 100% sure. It's more than likely a mixture of whatever's the best for any particular use case. So they're probably using something from OpenAI. They're probably using some stuff for Claude and Anthropic. I've heard that and from other cases that Gamma uses a lot of Anthropic for their stuff, but I don't have any insight into the technical setup of how they're tapping into those. But my bet would be that they're using the best model for the best output, and their team of engineers is constantly testing that to create to what works best specifically for Gamma's use case. So all of that said, let me see. Style, images, image model. So we have a bunch of different image models here because in the last one we didn't select any images. If you're creating images from an AI source, this does show you what models that Gamma is going to be using. So I was thinking more along the lines of text. But for images, you can do a lot of your own research. You can see ChatGPT Mini, Ideogram, Imagen, Leonardo. There's actually a lot of transparency here in what image models they use. So you can go through, you can check different images. I have not seen Gemini 2.5 Flash before, so I'm going to select that. And the last thing I want to do, because the question that Yolanda brought up, and I would love anyone to chime in here if you actually know the answer. For LinkedIn, what is the most optimal size? Is it squares 1 by 1? Is it portrait 4 by 5? This isn't like a test or anything. I'm like generally like I know stories for Instagram are in this size, but is LinkedIn? This is a great question for Google. What image size is optimal for LinkedIn images?
As you look that up, though, LinkedIn now has video too that emulates the stories. So I'm not sure if you're thinking of a traditional post or the.
So I think that if we, it would really depend on in which way we wanted to go. I'm seeing 1080 by 1080 is a recommended image size from Figma's, like a web post that they have. So we'll just start with that. But if you are going to be creating, that's a great point. If you are going to be creating more like shorts styles, like reels and images that are actually going to be that full story length, then you might want to go with the story style. And maybe we'll just do that and we'll say, okay, maybe we'll just play around with it and easy enough to come back and modify it from there. Let's just go story. And now I have 10 cards. I have all of this content right here. I'm generating it with the detailed level and I'm going to select generate. So we'll see how well Gemini's Flash 2.5 integrated inside of Gamma is going to do at generating my stick figures with black stick figure drawings on a white background that's going to blend into the images. All experimental too. Like any number of these images models might look better or worse compared to depending on what you're wanting it to like actually do. But you can see that style guide right there is what we were talking about. It's using the mint and kind of the additional colors that we described it as. And it's taking those instructions and it just customized the instructions with the outputs to speak towards the target audience that we were trying to speak to, which was the corporate team building side of things. Okay. And it's generating, so it's taking a little bit more of my bandwidth right now. Let's see. Creating how it works slides. Why teams love it. It's cool. I've heard this language verbatim from people that work in companies and like where this would fit in is it breaks down silos, gets teams to talk to each other. So it's cool that Gamma is using its AI and the large language models that it taps into, and it's literally catering this one specific set of instructions to a target audience that we're looking to bring this game and sell the game into as a corporate workshop, right? Real business disguised as fun, perfect for teams at any event. Pretty cool. It can generate this image, it can have the background styles, it can create like this sort of like custom art instruction and style that I gave it. And now we have a version of this that we could take and now we can modify and go in through and edit the content, add additional words or anything like that. But if I said, no, I don't really want to do this story style, I'm going to go back to these three dots next to my DR in the upper right hand corner to open up the settings. And for anybody that you get a good output with Gamma, but maybe it's not quite there because you wanted to change how it was structured and all of that stuff, I'm going to select viewing the source prompt. It's going to take me directly back to the thing that we started with in the first place. And I'm going to go to the social stories. I'm just going to go to Square. Okay. So I'm going to go to Square and generate it again. And now it will regenerate these posts in a different format, a different size. If I wanted to create these all in the form of a presentation, I can do just that. And that's going to be what I'm going to do next because I'm going to segue this into the templatization because I think this is a good segue into how we can build a template from this and show you guys how to do that. As templates will be super powerful once you start like scaling up your outreach and your personalization. And as we get more into the automation side of things, it's going to open up a lot of different possibilities depending on how you're using Gamma inside of your marketing, sales, and operations.
Can I ask a question, Zori?
Absolutely.
So basically, do you trust Gamma to start with the very basic idea and actually develop all of the text and everything inside Gamma along with the presentation and the pictures and everything? Is that pushing it too far? Do I have to go to Claude or to chat or whatever and get my text and my ideas first there and then come to Gamma and do it here? Or can I do it from the word go in Gamma? Will you trust it to do that?
I think the level of trust in which you put into Gamma to do the stuff that you're wanting it to do is going to depend widely on like your use case and how well your context is coming in and structured. Like for the example of, hey, here are the instructions that I've already spent hours refining and locking in. Like I'm not just going to expect Gamma to know that whole instructional SOP for how to play the game, but that was like me getting the baton and going a lap or two or three, and then being like, hey, Gamma, here's the instructions. Just create this presentation for this other target audience. And so from there, I'm like passing the baton. And I'm like, okay, Gamma, I got you 75% of the way there. Can you take me to the finish line? And at this point, it's really the human in the loop, me looking at this and being like, would I actually say this to like this market if we were marketing this to them? Like it's on me before any of this gets published out there. But if I wanted to spend a little bit more time, like really perfecting like one specific sales pitch with this, I might run through this with Gamma like 3 or 4 times to get some ideas with it. But I personally would probably have a Claude project open or a ChatGPT project where I'm also taking in other research that we have and saying, hey, create a 10-page pitch deck for corporate teams that are looking to generate new ideas and like culture from team building experiences. And then I would bring that into Gamma as another way of taking it a step further. But this could also get you there very quickly. I see you. What is it, Assad?
Yeah, no, the question is, okay, good. But if I do get a lot from Claude, then do I tell it not to change my words? Because whenever I've used Gamma, I said, use my text. So Gamma just did the nice stuff and the images and the presentation and put in the colors and the images and so
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, if I'm coming in,
But from what I'm seeing
yeah.
is that you're actually allowing it to change your words depending on the market you're going to.
In this demonstration, yes. But if I were to go and work with Claude and lock in, this is what I wanted to say first before, all I would do, and this workflow, and I'll just do a quick demonstration of it because I think it really is like a matter of test it out and see what works best for you. But I wouldn't click generate if I wanted it to be strictly from Claude coming in to what we're doing here. What I would do is I would copy this. I would open up Claude. I'm going to say, here is the context. use the context for the game and create a version of it that speaks to, I'm just going to copy who I want it to write for right here. Make it a 10-page slide pitch deck with a CTA to book a call with us to talk about hosting a game experience at your next event. So in this case, it's going to be an accelerated example of here. I'm going into Claude. I am giving it context, right? You could take a similar approach in ChatGPT if you had a project that already had all of your company knowledge around it. And now you could see Claude is, and this is again where I mentioned even earlier in this call, like usually I'm spending more time inside of Claude or ChatGPT first, creating a really solid outline, and then I'm putting that into Gamma as a preserve so that it's actually going to output it. But then I'll usually just let Gamma go with the images and then adjust the images after it outputs all
That's the way I
those.
was doing it.
Yeah. I don't think there's one, this is the right way to do it every time. I think it's more of like, how does it work in your workflow? If you're in like a creative like rut or like you're having some writer's block and maybe you need to spin something up super fast, like maybe it makes sense just to let Gamma fly with it. I think like sometimes Gamma, just like any AI, if it can go a little off base if you're not giving it a certain level of context, how you're seeding the information to create those outlines. And then there is some level of like, all right, Gamma, take the wheel, go and run with it. But here, Claude 4.5 Sonnet is, I've been using it like crazy lately. And
Uh, um, I've somehow preferred it a lot more to ChatGPT.
I have too. And I think like keeping up with these tools and like how they're constantly updating and innovating is important. As of late, I've found it to be much better for creating like the writing aspect and outlining and doing that sort of stuff. I have been leaning into ChatGPT more for just like general research and stuff along those lines. And I've also been using GenSpark in that sort of case too. But Claude has definitely been my default for using it for cases like this. And it's thinking quite a bit here. And so you can kind of, it's fun to watch and see what is like
Yeah,
this
I
is the
mean,
yeah.
it's a bit slower than it used to, but it seems to think a lot more.
And so here's an immediate call out that I'm going through here. I didn't give Claude any of the design specs. And so it's like making up the pink and purple palette because it feels modern, energetic, and creative. If I don't put a halt on that, or if I don't remove that from the thing, like that could negatively influence how the design gets produced. But again, it's like I didn't give it context, like, hey, here's the exact style guide that I want to use specifically for Side Hustle, because I didn't need to because I'm going to be using the Gamma brand
And so
theme that
for
I've already created.
you would trust more Gamma on getting the right colors and design than following Claude's suggestions for colors and so on.
In this theme, I can change the color scheme inside of this theme to anything I want, but I've already
No, no, I know.
spent the time to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you had to choose, you went there. If I was to say, okay, I'm letting either Claude or Gamma decide for me, would you go for Gamma's choice of colors and so on, or would you actually take Claude's suggestions?
I would take it as a suggestion. This is for a brand that I already know has established style guides, so I'm just gonna just like Claude can give me ideas for how to maybe improve how the brand style guide is structured, but pink and purple are not this brand's colors. So I'm like, if I was
Yeah.
coming up with in pure ideation phase and coming out, oh, interesting. Like maybe let's consider that. But as with any AI, it's all experimental, should be used with like your taste being the thing that's going to ultimately get it back.
How can I get Gamma? If I was to give Gamma my idea and said, listen, suggest the colors, is there any way I can do that? Maybe an agent?
Maybe in the agent mode, you could ask it to suggest colors for it, but Gamma has a lot of pre-built themes already, which are starting points that you
Yeah,
need to
but I mean, maybe I
select.
can ask it, which theme do you think fits best this audience? Or if I was starting from scratch.
You could probably take that approach, but I don't know if Gamma will, I don't know if you'll get beyond this page without having to select a visual. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have to select one theme like any way you look at it. But you could also Gamma has some art styles that you can start it with as some general prompts. I would recommend having like a general idea about what you want your visuals to look like first, and then modify these inside of Gamma so that your outputs are just going to be more in line. And Claude is really going the second mile, by the way. As we've been talking about this, Claude is like doing some like next level type of slide build out and packaging creation. Way more than what you're going to get by just giving this to Gamma, which to me is a highlight of like how you use these other tools in parallel with Gamma. Because if you spend a little bit more time refining and perfecting what the outline and what the content and copy is going to be going into Gamma, then you could spend more time fine tuning some of the visual elements, maybe messing with the AI image generator, bringing your own images in. And we have a lot of like real world images from when we've hosted these games at comedy clubs, at our own private events. And so I'm not going to lean as much on this as an AI generated image because we have like our own image vault that we're going to pull from. And so I'm just going to be looking for Gamma to give me the structure for how this is going to look out. And I'm not really upset at all that it's taking some extra time putting this 10-page slide deck because how I want to segue this for the last part of the workshop is like, how do you templatize something like this to then go and use the same structure that you spend time putting it into? And Kuvi, who's actually on the call today with us, we did a workshop a month ago on doing this process alongside of a custom GPT we developed that is at some point going to be available inside of our community, maybe potentially on YouTube, but going deeper into like how to pair these templates and going a little bit more advanced with personalizing these decks, but what goes into customizing an actual template that's going to work inside of your sales process is going to vary depending on what you do, depending on what value you are delivering up front or what you're presenting or pitching yourself to do. I hope this isn't timeout because sometimes Claude will think for 10 minutes and I'm like gonna give it
Sonnet is
like
a bit on the slower side because it seems to, and I used to think Opus was slow.
Opus is a lot slower from my experience too. And I didn't even give it that much of a prompt here, which is interesting because sometimes I find that Claude will like think way longer through some stuff where I'm like, I just wanted you to tell me what time it was or how long do I cook this pasta for? Instead, we're here at this stage. Yes, this is a Gamma Mastery workshop, but at the same time, the content and the context that you bring into Gamma is going to help you with mastering it that much more. And again, if we get to the point where we finish this outline right here, creating the template's actually a pretty quick thing to do. Just goes to the point of spending the time to create this sort of content in advance. And while it's doing that, I'm going to jump back to this screen just to give Claude a little bit more time to think, to close the loop on Yolanda, your question about pushing this stuff out to socials. So we saw version one and we saw version two. And so if I click version one or version two or whatever that might be, I don't know how to click directly into it, but if I go through here and let's say I wanted to be more concise, I generated another image prompt. The question initially was like, how do I use this for LinkedIn carousels and things like that? The simplest way that I found to do it is one, Gamma integrates now directly with LinkedIn so that you can go and share it directly onto your LinkedIn from here once the slides are in a good spot to do that. You can also export them as like PNGs and you can just upload them directly to whatever social media schedule you're using or directly to Instagram if you're on Instagram for that example. But it's going to create 10 slides here and I'll show you, we touched on it briefly at the end of last call. It's generated the images. You can see like all the images are still in that style guide that we gave it. So this is the first time I've tested out Google Gemini's Flash 2.5, which for using Gemini Flash 2.5 directly, I think people call it Nano Banana or whatever the other name is for it. It's very good at taking one image. And I don't know how well you can do this in Gamma. I haven't tried it. But if you go directly to Gemini and then you upload an image, let's say of a whiteboard, and then you upload a separate image of like a sticker or like a post-it note and say, put this post-it note on the whiteboard, and then write the word whiteboard on the post-it note. It'll do a really good job at keeping the exact picture of the whiteboard and the exact picture of the post-it note and putting it on the whiteboard. May seem like a basic example, but it's super powerful if you're doing like product mock-ups and placing products or stuff and changing images at that front that you may find that Gamma doesn't quite hit the mark on if you're just generating images like this. And so maybe something to explore in a future video here or just by yourself on Gamma. But now that we see the examples, we can go through, obviously, we can modify and edit it with agent. We can change the text as much as we want. If I wanted to remove the word Y in the first slide, I would just tell the Gamma agent, remove that, and it should. Teams are obsessed with side hustle, right? Boom, magic. But now let's say I do all the editing, I'm ready to share it. I go to the top navigation bar here. I can select share and export actually is what I want to be selecting. So I can export PDFs, PowerPoint, Google Slides, or PNGs if I want to upload it directly, or I can select LinkedIn and that will allow me to push it directly to my LinkedIn page. Okay. My goodness, everybody. I was not expecting Claude to be this much of an overachiever. What is going on, Claude? Part of me is impressed, and then part of me is you need to slow your roll because now you're gonna burn through all of my credits that's going on here. So do another quick pause while Claude is doing its thing. I'm gonna probably get another thing going so I can see if I can have it just give me a super simple example. Yolanda, we had a few examples here related to SOPs, related to social content. How is all of this landing? Are you guys seeing the possibilities of where Gamma can help you on repurposing and creating content for different things?
Yes, I absolutely do. Thank you so much, especially in regards to the SOP.
Awesome. I love to hear that. And I hope that we can, John, I'll have a few minutes after this that we can just share the final templatization. I know if some of you have to just the outline with copy, see if we can get to this template side of things so that you can see where Gamma can shine there. And look at that. See, Claude was such an overachiever, it burned all of my credits that I could use inside of my plan for this hour, which means, Claude, you are no longer, you're dead to me. I'm going to open up my ChatGPT account and give ChatGPT a shot. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same prompt that I'm giving Claude, I'm giving it to ChatGPT, just telling it to be super simple. You don't need to overachieve. Here's the game instructions. And you might find yourself, if you're, my spelling is a little bit whack right here, but hopefully AI can figure it out. So chat's just giving me, I'm using 5.1, which just dropped this week. Just boom. All right. So it's taking the instructions and it's giving me a pitch deck outline specifically for this thing. Big idea, why it works. All right, cool. Look at this. Now it's connecting directly to Canva, which we're not going to do here because this is not a Canva workshop. This is a Gamma workshop. So I'm going to take this outline for a pitch deck. We're talking about, okay, now we spend some time, we create this outline. Claude is still cooking over here. And it tapped out. And, now we can't use Claude on our plan for a while. Oh, so next thing I'm going to do, let's just jump right back into it. We'll say that we went to ChatGPT because it was being a better friend to us today. And we take this sales deck outline that we just created inside of chat. Now I've got to write it for this person. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste here 10 cards. I'm going to preserve it. And now I've already got my theme set up. I've got the image thing set up and rocking and rolling. I'm just going to go ahead and click generate now. And it's going to generate yet another presentation for us, except for I lied. I don't want this to be a social media presentation. Important point that if you're going to go keep reusing the same style prompt and refining it, if you ever want to change the format, I just need to jump back down here, format on the left-hand side, presentation, and it's building out the presentation. Okay. So now it's building out this presentation, and this is important for the last part. We're going to go another 5 or 10 minutes here. So if anyone needs to hop, I know we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to walk through this final presentation, and then how to take this and turn it into a repeatable template that we can start to build on inside of Gamma, and how to modify and use those templates inside of your account. And so it's building out this, and this is going to be kind of like the more general, how would we pitch this service to companies that are looking for team building? And you can see what it's doing. It's taking the content that we took based on our instructions, then based on an outline that we wanted to create, creating a beautiful presentation for it that obviously we can update some of the imagery here as we're refining this. Let's book a quick call with our team to plan your custom game experience. Book a call. I would link that to my Calendly or Google Booking link or whatever. And voila. Cool. So, again, obviously I can go through. If I wanted it, like, for example, I'm going to change this image. I can remove it. I can edit the image. I can ask it to do something else. I can upload an image myself. That's fine. What I want to do now is say, okay, this is a great example of a template that we're going to want to start and build from. Next thing I want to do, you can see it's here inside of my SideHustle folder. I can share it. I can rename it. I can duplicate it. I can remix from this, or I could save copy as a template. So once you have a solid structure for what you want, something repeatable, but maybe you're going to slightly customize it, this is where you want to create save copy as a template. I'm going to say template 1, SideHustle, the team building experience. So I'm going to create this template. And if I open the template in editor, anything that I edit here is going to actually take effect immediately. So I'm not going to do that right now. I think they just opened up the templates to API, which is good, Kuvi, for what we're going to be doing. But now on the left side below folders, right now I'm going to select templates. So we see here templates, template 1, that template that I just made. When I select use template, I can use this template or remix this template. The remix is really key here, because then what this will allow me to do is take this template and I could prompt to have it modify anything here. And so I'm going to say, let me think of something real quick. Create a version for this event where we're inviting people to experience the team building version of SideHustle at our South by Southwest comedy show in March of 2026. Just a quick example. You can add a prompt here. Say, specifically, I want you to call out potential sponsors that we're going to be reaching out to, include Austin-based brands like Yeti as someone that we're going to be hitting up to potentially collaborate with. Include Austin-based brands like Yeti as potential sponsors that we're going to want to be collaborating with to make this a fun experience. We're not working with Yeti right now. They're an Austin-based brand, so I'm just using them. And to see, so you can see specifically how it's going to influence the content. So I'm giving it this prompt and I'm generating, and you can add, I think, up to 100,000 characters in the prompts. Automate your workflows, use a template with our API to create content at scale. We'll be getting into that more next week for part 3 of the workshop. So stay tuned for that and join us live if you're here in the community. Of course, tune in on YouTube as well. But now it's setting things up. So it's taking this pure 10-page presentation template that I gave it. And then now I'm just giving it another, and this is really important as we're getting into here. It should be producing the same images that it did before, or that's how it was working beforehand. And maybe it's a little bit different. So it looks like it is a little bit different here, but it's taking this template as context for the base layer, and it's refining this template based on the prompting that I gave it. So this is the same image that we used before. So like some of the stuff is still the same throughout the template. When I mentioned Kuvi, who was on this call, what you guys would see in this AI sales engine, if you've gone through that workshop, is you can get really specific with these templates to say, if you have a 5 or 10-page template and be like, hey, for slide 3, and you just copy and paste what you want to change in only that slide, it'll just duplicate the template and only change that content on only that slide, as one example. And now it looks like templates have access inside of the API, which means that if you're doing this for like a sales process for customizing like decks for companies that you're pitching or doing whatever at scale, you're going to be able to use a template and then personalize that template to 1 to 5 to 10 to 100 different companies that are coming through your workflow. And it just took that same template and then basically created a version of it that was catered to South by Southwest, like right here, South by Songs. Quick example on the templatization side that I think is super powerful. Depending on how you're using it, you could use this for SOPs. You can use this for a lot of different other examples that we don't have the time to get into everything today, but I do hope that through today's workshop, you can see where you can personalize and customize SOPs, turn them into more visual assets that are more entertaining and engaging for people that are going through them and consuming the content, that you can see how to create social media content, that you can see now also how you can take one version of your gamma that is locked in, you really like the style, and then you can repeat it and remix it just with using your prompts. And all of this designed to build on each other for next week, which is going to be part 3 of our Gamma Mastery series. We're going to be talking more about automation, more about locking in on the content that we're creating, and using the Gamma API to take what we've created with these assets inside of Gamma and then how to start to create different variations or different versions of those assets that you can scale up from there using the Gamma API. So all of that said, I'm gonna still hang around here for a few more minutes if we have any comments, questions for anybody here that's tuned in with us live. Of course, make sure that you are also subscribed on YouTube to get updated when we drop new videos onto our channel, and join our community at jennyau.com/school. That wraps up today's workshop, y'all. Thanks for tuning in with us. Thanks, Penny, everyone, for joining in. Any insights, ahas, or burning questions while we have a few minutes here before we wrap things up? Thank you all. All right. Cool. Great to see everybody here today. Stay tuned inside of the community. You got some exciting stuff coming up this week. And until the next workshop, keep calm and AI on. We'll see you guys on the other side. Cheers, y'all.